The tree falls, pulls our electrical and our internet lines out of our house, literally as I'm walking by, thinking, thank goodness that didn't fall on the house because I could have been killed right now. As with most people in the world, my 2020 did not go to plan. Some of the things that happened this year include failing a path I've been on for 8 years that I thought I would finish this year, replanning our wedding multiple times for different reasons, being part of the most expensive thunderstorm in US history, and finally having COVID. So in this video, I'm going to talk through my 2020. I'm gonna put pictures over here of different things that have happened. And the reason I'm doing this video is just for those of you who are brand new to my channel, found me through my COVID videos, this will give you a good idea of who I am, what I do in my life, and the craziness that 2020 has brought. And for those of you who watch my main channel, Amber Resells, this should give you a good idea of where I've been the last 6 months and why I have not posted a video on that channel for the last 6 months. It is a cold day in Iowa. It is snowing out and I have a fire going and I'm cuddled under a blanket, so it's a perfect day to just talk to you guys and tell you what I have been up to. Before I get started, I would love it if you all would comment down below. Let me know where you're from and how you found my channel. I would like to get to know you guys better just as you get to know me better. So I started off this year extremely optimistic and very naive about the year that was about to come. I started 2020 thinking that I was going to get a pass on the final actuarial exam. I have been taking these exams since 2012 and I was gonna finally be done with them. So if you guys aren't familiar, a really quick background of what an actuary is and what the actuarial exams are. The general definition of an actuary is people who quantify risk. Actuaries generally work for insurance companies, determining the risk of, for example, like different drivers in a vehicle and what potential damage could be occurred so they can price like auto insurance, or people who work for companies that sell home insurance and they determine what the risks are of different damage to the home. Or you have people like me, I work for a life insurance company. So I'm actually like, I would say like stereotypical actuary. If you've watched Along Came Polly, the guy on there is a life insurance actuary. So sometimes people have some idea of an actuary from that show. And that is definitely the stereotype of an actuary. A super nerdy, quiet person is kind of stereotype. And part of that comes from having to study for many years for the exams that come with being an actuary. So I, along with most actuaries, took my first exam in college. I passed 2 of the exams before I graduated college, and then I got a full-time job working for the company I work for now. And then the company pays you to work, but also gives you paid time to study. And then over the next many years, you take the professional exams. And like I said, I took my first one in 2012. And I took what I thought was gonna be my last sitting in October of 2019, and I got the results in January of 2020. So January 2020 was here. Around the 10th or 15th, I got my exam results, and unfortunately I did not pass. I failed the exams. They only pass about 40 to 50% of people who take this exam. So a large portion of us fail, but I definitely thought I was gonna pass, so I was pretty disappointed. And I got a 5, and you need a 6 to pass. So I was very close to passing, but I did not pass. So that was the first thing 2020 threw at me, was I failed my exam. So now we move on to February. At this point, I start restudying to retake my exam. The exams are offered twice a year, so I can take this exam in either April or October. So I start restudying for the April sitting. Then mid-February, I'm scrolling through Facebook, again, so naive. Scrolling through Facebook, and I see an article saying that our wedding venue has gone bankrupt and closed effective immediately. This is the first time we had heard that this was happening, and come to find out that this was the truth. Our wedding venue had closed, had not contacted anyone at this point. We ended up, in the end, we got contacted by their lawyers to tell us that they were closing. But then in February, we had to rebook our wedding. Thankfully, we were able to rebook it to a location that had our date and also fit as many people as we invited. This was before COVID. We had invited 350 people to our wedding. And in February was when we sent the save the dates out. As you guys all know already, COVID comes into this picture later and we have to change things again. But at this point, we're still planning for 350 people in the middle of July. So then March comes, and this is when COVID is hitting the US, and we aren't sure yet what's gonna happen with both my actuarial exam and the wedding. So we just follow status quo. We don't change anything for the wedding. And as far as my exam, I continue studying for it because nothing has changed for my exam. And then I think it was towards the end of March, they announced that they're rescheduling the actuarial exams from the April sitting to be later in the year. And then they later announced, I think in April, I don't remember the timeline now, but they announced that the date of my exam was going to be July 15th. And the date of our wedding is July 18th. So then I had to decide, do I want to retake this exam a couple days before my wedding or wait and take it until October? Another piece of this story is that they also had changed the material on the exam. Like 40% of the material changed between the October sitting and the April sitting. So it wasn't just restudying what I already knew. I also was studying new material. So at this time, I decided that I was not going to take it in July, just a couple days before my wedding. I was going to just focus on the wedding, and I would retake it in October. So now we move on to April of 2020, and I'm not studying because I have, like I said, decided to take the exam in October and not take it on the date that's a couple days before our wedding. And mainly we were trying to decide what to do now about our wedding because we've already invited 350 people, but we are watching the news day to day and we know it is not safe or smart for us to have a wedding with 300 people. So in April, we didn't make a decision, but we were obviously thinking a lot about what we should do. Then in May, we officially decided to cut our wedding down to 10 people. We still wanted to get married on the original day, and we were going to just have a very, very small ceremony with just our parents and the officiant and us, and then have a big reception whenever COVID resolved. Then we move on to June, and after talking to a lot of people, we decided to increase our wedding to immediate family and then 5 friends each. Nobody over the age of 60. We moved everything outside. So we had our wedding, we planned to have our wedding in the rose garden, which was the one thing that didn't change from the beginning to end of planning. And we moved the reception to our backyard instead of an indoor venue. So obviously, now that we've moved the wedding to our backyard, we had a lot of yard cleanup that we had on the list for a long time that we finally got done. So we spent June literally every weekend just doing yard work. So here's some pictures of befores and afters of the yard work. Then move on to July, and it is wedding month. And despite having replanned our wedding quite a few times, the actual wedding was perfect. It was nothing like we originally planned, but it was a really, really great day. So we got married on July 18th. There was a heat index that day. It was over 100 degrees. And like I said, everything was outside, but it really did not feel that hot. We had, like I said, we had a tent, we had cold drinks. There was a bit of a breeze, and it really was a really great day. Then at the end of July, we had planned originally, back before COVID, we had planned to go to Canada for a couple weeks for our honeymoon. And we were just gonna go hiking, go canoeing. And in the end, it actually worked out for us that Canada was not letting anybody from the US in. And the reason it worked out is that we were already planning to cancel our trip because we didn't want to risk exposing people, especially after we had just been at our wedding with 30 people. Since Canada wouldn't let us go in the state, that meant that all of the people we had already paid money were required to give us our money back. So we got back all of our money from Airbnb, we got back the money from our hotels, Do we have anything else? I don't know. Whatever we had spent, we got all of the money back from our honeymoon. And we ended up just staying around home. We did some house projects. We went for some hikes in parks around here. So now we move on to August. I begin studying because now I am studying for the October sitting to retake the exam I failed in January. And of course 2020 throws something at us. So we get to August 10th. I will never forget August 10th. I'm sitting at my desk and I start seeing texts from my siblings saying that there's a storm coming through and a bunch of trees are falling down. And I think, this is odd, like I haven't heard anything in the news about a storm. And my family lives an hour and a half west of me and the storm is moving east, so it hasn't got to me yet. I look on the news and I see the radar and it looks like the storm is moving about 30 minutes north of us. So I just continue working, sitting at my desk. And then I start noticing the wind picking up. And I'm like looking outside, looking at the trees, watching the wind. It starts raining. And then all of a sudden the wind really starts to pick up to the point that I decide I need to go to the basement. And normally I don't go to the basement unless I hear sirens, but I was scared because the wind was really fast. So I pick up my computer, I start walking to the basement, and as I'm walking by our big bay window, this massive tree we have outside of our house falls. Literally as I'm, well, at this way I'm running, running by the window, the tree falls, pulls our electrical and our internet lines out of our house, literally as I'm walking by, thinking, thank goodness that didn't fall on the house because I could have been killed right now. That's not funny, I don't know why I laughed, but honestly. So the tree falls, pulls out our electric lines, obviously the house goes dark. I run to the basement and I sit in the basement and I just listen to cracking and thudding as tons of our trees are falling down. So scary. Like I said, I will literally never forget this. Just, first of all, seeing the tree fall, and then second of all, sitting in the basement and just hearing these sounds like as I'm sitting in a dark basement. So this storm that came through is called a derecho. And in the end, this ended up being the most expensive thunderstorm in US history. So when it hit my family members area, it was obviously doing damage. As it moved east, it was doing more and more damage. So by the time it got to Des Moines, where I live, it had increased the amount of damage it was doing. And as it got further east, so Cedar Rapids, Iowa, which is about 2 hours east of us, had the worst damage of anywhere in the US. And when it was in Des Moines, the airport, which is very close to our house, recorded 75-mile-per-hour winds, which is about the same as a Category 1 hurricane. And by the time I got to Cedar Rapids, they were recording 125-mile-per-hour winds, which is about the same as a Category 3 hurricane. So it did a lot of damage, and it was, like I said, something I'll never forget. We ended up spending about a week cleaning up the trees and trying to contact electric companies to come out and fix our lines. And then also, since we had the line in the tree in the lines, we didn't really want to do that ourselves. So we were trying to get a hold of a tree company, and it was impossible because everybody was trying to get a hold of them. There were some that just had automatic voicemails saying that they are only taking past customers, and there were other people that twice I called companies and they just hung up. Like they answered and hung up because they're just overwhelmed with calls. So in the end, we obviously made sure that the lines were dead. Is that the right term? Like the electric company came out and told us there is no electricity running through. And then Jacob and I ourselves cut the tree out of the lines. And then once we did that, the electric company was able to come out and we got all connected. So it took about a week for us to get internet and electricity back. So that was August. Then September and October were relatively uneventful. I just spent those 2 months studying for my retake of my actuarial exam. The end of October, I went and retook the exam. I wish I could say that I feel confident in it, but unfortunately, it didn't go as well as I hoped it would. So January of 2021, I will get the result again. Hopefully things went better than I thought they did, but I will post on this channel to update you guys. So make sure you're subscribed if you want to see what happens with that. And like I said, I'll post on here to tell you guys how that goes once I get the results. So then November 2020 comes, and as probably all of you know, we got COVID. So hopefully that was the last negative of 2020. And I just want to end with some bright sides of this year. So on the bright side, we spent way less on our wedding than we planned to. We had a perfect day, and we actually ended up canceling our future reception and calling it good with our small 30 people wedding that we had. On the bright side, we got back all of the money from our original venue when they canceled. On the bright side, because of the storm, our insurance company paid to have our roof and our siding all replaced. And finally, on the bright side, if we were gonna get COVID in any month in 2020, November was probably the best month because it was actually a month where things had calmed down in our lives. And so it wasn't like we had COVID on top of a bunch of other stressors. Now you guys are updated on where I've been and why I have not been posting on YouTube, but I am back now. Hopefully 2021 will be much better than 2020, and I will finally get my exams passed, and I will have time to post and make content for this channel and my Amber Resales channel. If you guys haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You can stay up to date on what's going on with me. I'm gonna use this channel for personal life updates, but also just any random video that I wanna make that isn't reseller related. Let me know if you guys have any questions in the comments down below. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on the bell notification to get notified when I upload videos. Thank you guys all for watching, and stay tuned because I will have a new video out soon.